layout. However basic it is, we've already looked at some, cool techniques that we can use to style things up. And from here you can go. Okay, so we've already come this far with our layout.
Nào bây giờ chúng ta sẽ vào phần 3.
We've already looked at some, cool techniques that we can use to style things up. And from here you can go on and create something that actually looks nice. But now we're going to look at a tricky problem that we often see when we're creating content areas floating next to side areas or a couple of areas. And this should give you good grounds to go ahead and start to understand how we size things and the box model as well. So we've got here a main content area. We've also got a side area. Now what we need is we need the content area to be on the left and the side area to be on the right. And what we're going to be doing is applying colors.
Chúng ta muốn cái main content này thì nó chạy ở bên trái và side thì chạy sang bên phải nhé.
So color to the main content area, color to the side area, so we can see exactly where things are on the page.
Và như vậy chúng ta nên tạo cho nó một cái color, tức là cái màu của cái main content và màu của cái side area như thế nào đó để chúng ta nhìn thấy một cách thực tế nó nằm ở đâu ở trên cái trang web của mình.
It's going to make our job a lot easier in styling this up. So main content, side area. Let's go ahead and start to style these individually. So the main content is content, and the side area is just an idea of side. So content, I'm going to give a background of red. Side, I'm going to give a background of green. So let's go ahead and look at the browser. We've got a red area here and a green area here. We want the green area to be around here. We're not going to, I don't have any actual specification for width, but we'll go ahead and put
that. Chúng ta muốn cái màu xanh thì nó nằm ở từ đây lại, còn màu đỏ thì nằm từ đây lại, đúng không?
So calculate it out. And then we want the red area to be anything from here. And any content's going to go in there, and then any side widgets or text or anything will go in this outside. So let's go ahead and, first of all give these a width. So ignoring the background being red, we'll pretend that's not there. We'll go ahead and give this a width. I want to give it a width of 700 pixels. Remember our main container, the inside of this is 960 pixels. Oh, actually, sorry, no, it's not. Let's go ahead and inspect. So we've got 940 as the width. You can see here that any content within main, which spans.
Và chúng ta vừa inspect thì chúng ta biết là nó có độ rộng là 140 pixel nhé.
The entire middle of the thing. Remember, we gave the outer wrap a padding of 10, which removed 20 from it. So we've got a 940 pixel inside area. So let's say we went and gave this 700. That means we've got 240 for the side area. So width, 240. So 700 add 240 is 940, which is our, main content area, 940 pixels. Let's go ahead and refresh. Okay, so this is fair enough. Now let's go ahead and start to float this right and float this left. We don't actually have to float the content left.
Now bây giờ chúng ta sẽ cho nó float right và float left.
Let's say float right. And you'll see that that has moved. Actually, we might have to go ahead and float this left. Yes, there we go, perfect. So we now have a main content area on this side, and we now have the side area on this side. Now, let's go ahead and add some padding to the main content area, because obviously we don't want our content to be strictly at the side of our design. We might want to add some padding to this. You might not want to, but particularly for the side area, you're not going to want.
Chúng ta không muốn là cái main content này nó ra đến tận lề này, và chúng ta làm một tí cái padding.
If say text is coming right up to here, we want to sort of pad both.
Và kể cả phía bên này chúng ta cũng không muốn nó đến những cái chữ nghĩa nó sát tận đây, chúng ta cũng muốn để cách cho nó một ít và chúng ta sẽ làm cái padding.
Both parts in a bit. Anyway, let's go ahead and do that. So we'll go ahead and add some padding. We'll add 10 pixels to both. We could group these rules and selectors, but if we want to go ahead and change site at a later time, it would be harder. So I've refreshed, and you see we've got a problem here. We've got the same problem as at.
Và chúng ta refresh và chúng ta thấy hình như là chúng ta có vấn đề ở đây nhé.
The problem we have with the width of our overall container, where now if you inspect this, the size is 720 when we defined it as 700. That's because we've got 10 pixels extra on the left and 10 pixels extra on the right. So how do we go about tackling this? Well, we can go ahead and we can either use box sizing, which I'm not going to go into in this tutorial. There's a tutorial on it in the series, so go ahead and check that out if you're comfortable with using that. But what we're going to do is we're just going to do it the old-fashioned way. We're going to go ahead and reduce the width of the containers. So we need to make this 20 pixels smaller, so that will be 680 pixels, and we want to make this 20 pixels smaller, which is 220. Now what's going to happen is the padding isn't going to enlarge the size of the container, and it's going to take into account the fact that we've reduced the size and then expanded it with padding. So we've now got the same size areas, but we've just included our padding in. So let's go ahead and get rid of these background colors. Oops. So we've now got the same size areas, but we've just included.
Đó, các bạn đã nhìn thấy cái padding là cái chữ này đã không ra sát lề đây này, và cái chữ này cũng không ra sát cái lề đây, và nó sẽ kết thúc ở đằng này, và chúng ta sẽ thấy này. Như thế thì nó hay hơn, đúng không? Chứ không phải chữ nghĩa của chúng ta đi sát lên đây và sát lên đây thì không thể được, đúng không?
Padding in. So let's go ahead and get rid of these background colors. Oops, a little bit too much there. Go ahead and get rid of these backgrounds and refresh.
Và chúng ta bỏ hết những cái background color đi và chúng ta refresh lại, và bây giờ chúng ta đã thấy ổn rồi. Khi mà chúng ta làm color chẳng qua để chúng ta khi mà chúng ta còn đang theo dõi những cái miền đấy nó bố trí như thế nào thực tế ở trên trang web, còn khi chúng ta đã làm ổn rồi thì chúng ta bỏ cái màu sắc đó đi.
And there we go, we've got our main content and our side area. Now I want to add this little hairline grey border down the side here, as was in the start of the tutorial when we looked at the overall design. And this is going to cause some problems again, so we're going to need to take these into account as well. So I'm going to say border left, 1 pixel, solid, we'll say CCC, or 888, just to make it a bit more visible. And this is the killer here. It's going to add another pixel onto this side, so when I refresh, we've got this problem here now. This has been pulled down and this has come up here, and you might be thinking, what's the problem? The problem is that we've added another pixel to the side area, and therefore it's come down underneath it again. So if we inspect these, you can see that the main content's up here, the side's down here. So we need to go ahead and take into account this pixel that we've added on, and we simply just need to remove 1 pixel from the width, and that will.
Và khi chúng ta làm như vậy thì nó lại tụt xuống, đúng không? Và chúng ta phải cắt ngắn bớt cái độ rộng của cái main content này đi một chút để cho nó vừa 1 pixel vào đây.
Solve the problem. So when you're thinking about these content areas, borders, padding, margins will increase the size of the area that a container uses up. So you need to bear that in mind. And I also want this this side part here to line up with the top. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the margin that I created on the UL, or the margin bottom that I created on the UL earlier. So that will now come up, and that will just sort of link in with that. Now it's looking not nice, but it's looking, there's some structure to it. Now I want to go ahead and I want to give a minimum width to this side area. And the reason for this is when we say have a page with not much on it, we want the line here to expand down, and we want it to look like there should be some kind of content in this main area. You don't have to do this, it's entirely up to you, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a minimum width. In fact, we could actually do this with the content area as well. I would achieve the same effect. So I'll go min height, so minimum height of say 200 pixels. What this will do is, even if there's not enough content to fill the container, oops, ah yes, sorry, yeah, we need to go ahead and add that to the side. So we'll say min height 200 pixels. There, okay? So I've added this to the side. Now, you'd have automatically seen a problem, and we had a problem prior to that as well, and I'll explain that in a minute.
Chúng ta đặt cho cái size này cái độ cao tối thiểu là nó phải là 200 pixel. Cho dù nó có nội dung hay không có nội dung thì chúng ta cũng muốn có cái đường này 200 pixel.
In a minute. We can use min height with a content area, but what haven't we done? We've floated the main content. Để
mà khi mà chúng ta khi mà cái nội dung nó điền vào những cái chỗ này nó ít thì chúng ta vẫn có cái đoạn cách biệt giữa cái footer và cái miền menu này nhé.
Left, and we floated the side area right. Now what about this poor footer underneath it? Well, it doesn't know what to do. We need to go ahead and we need to use our clear fix here to clear any floated elements. So we've got this content area that's been floated left, this side area that's been floated. So immediately under the last floated element, but before
và chúng ta muốn có một cái clear nữa.
We want to go ahead and we want to clear any floats. So div class equals
clear.
Okay, and when we go ahead and refresh, this moved down. So we can in fact go ahead and just add in the background colors again, just to make sense of where we are with this. And if you're following along exactly, you can go ahead and do the same. It should make more sense. Let's go ahead and refresh. Okay, so you can see we've got this main content area. The side area has got a minimum height of 200 pixels, which means even if it doesn't fill up, we still make it 200 pixels at least. The footer's sitting nicely under with no padding, and it's not interfering with the main content or the side area. Now let's go ahead and remove this min height from here and add it to the content area to see how we fix this just with a float. So, without clearing floats, we're causing a variety of different problems. So we've got the same effect here. It doesn't really matter what we're doing. We could even take this and we could say content, comma, size. So we're applying a CSS property to both of these elements. And we could say min height 200 pixels. And that would give us a minimum height for both. Okay, so that's not necessary. But if you want to keep some kind of default style to your overall page, without there being a lot of content in, you can use the min height. Okay, so in the last part of this series, or this mini-series within the larger CSS series, we're going to be creating some headers and some paragraphs within our main content area, just to see how these sit. We're not going to be styling them because that's relatively straightforward, and we're also going to be styling the footer. Very, very basic stuff. In fact, we could probably include it in this part of the tutorial. Otherwise we're going to waste another part. So let's go ahead and quickly do this. We'll get rid of the background colours for the side and the content. So let's remove these here. Let's go ahead and refresh. Okay, so let's go ahead and style the footer. Let's add a selector for the footer. We're not going to be doing anything interesting here, but you might want to go ahead and create another unordered list within it, or you might want to add, a couple more columns or 3 columns. You could add, a left, a middle, and a right column. You could do that using the same techniques we've used for content and side. You just have to float them all left. That's the key there. Or float 2 of them left and 1 of them right, whatever. Let's go ahead and add a background here of #000, and we're going to set any colours within here to white. So we've got this. Now what we can do is we can go ahead and we can add padding to this because it's contained within a container. We're not relying on any content outside of this at all. The padding just takes effect, pulls everything inwards and doesn't affect anything else on the page at all. So we're not affecting the main content, anything around it at all. So that's basically it. Let's just go ahead and add some headers to the main content area. I'll go ahead and add a header 1, which is semantically correct to add an H1, then content, and H2, then content. So I'm just going to say this, welcome to our site. Then I'm going to add a paragraph underneath. So this is a paragraph. Let's go ahead and preview that. You'll notice that we have H1 is the same size as our header, or or our logo. We could go ahead and reduce the size of this if we wanted to. If we did want to do that, we could go over to the styles, we could come up to where H1 is, we could say, in fact no, probably best to go down where content is and say hash content H1. In fact, it probably would be best to put it at the top, but you know, keep all your H1s grouped. We could say font size, I don't know, we could use a percentage, we could say 80% for example, that would just reduce it. Oops, sorry, that's not right, that's 80% of our overall font size. Let's just say font size 1.6 here. We could do that for example, and then you know underneath this we could add more content. So we could add an H2 for example. Subheader, and then we could add say another paragraph there as well. And just looking at things like default spacing on paragraphs, we've got this margin on the top and the bottom. And remember that when we created our H1s, we had no padding or margin around it at all. For the subheader, we have, you know, you can go ahead and target these specifically within the content area. The point is that we've laid out a basic site layout, relatively straightforward. We've dealt with floating, we've dealt with
Như thế là chúng ta đã biết cách thông qua cái video này của PHP Academy, chúng ta đã biết cách làm việc với một cái basic website layout nhỉ. Và cái video này đã đến hồi kết thúc rồi.
We've dealt with this menu as well and basically putting everything together. So if you can master this, you can really start to put together designs of your own, start to color, you know, background images, content areas, change colors, change sizing, you know, even a suggestion where I said add me.
Và một cái điều tôi khuyên các bạn là nên thực hành cái này và các bạn có thể tự thay đổi những cái màu sắc cũng như là những cái nội dung của những cái trang này, và hãy nghịch ngợm với nó để làm quen với CSS và làm quen với việc design một cái trang web cơ bản.
Maybe 3 columns in the footer, that would probably be a good step forward. But for now, that's a basic site layout in CSS.
So, thank you very much for watching and see you next time.